Welcome to Fishability's Disability Awareness Training webinar. This webinar aims to give you a bit more background on fishability, as well as a bit more information about supporting the people who are coming along to the fishing experiences who have a disability. Fishability understands that not everybody who comes along to Fishability as a volunteer is going to have the same level of confidence or experience with people with disability. So hopefully this webinar will help. There are a number of videos that we will share throughout the presentation, and these are videos that have been produced by the volunteers and some of the fishers who come along. So we hope you'll enjoy them.
Hello, my name is Steve Jones and I'm a volunteer with Fishability. I'm also a coordinator for Fishability. Fishability volunteers provide fishing opportunities for people with disabilities in the WA community free of charge. We do this through hosting regular jetty and boating fishing activities in Albany, Busselton, Mandurah, Perth and Geraldton. Fishability was founded in Perth by the late Nev Thomas in 2003. And Nev would be proud and humbled to realise how far we've advanced and how the future looks for Fishability. Fishability volunteers love helping people and we love fishing. The social interaction between participants and carers and volunteers at our fishing event is just as important. We try to ensure that every person has a great experience every time. We happily share our expertise with participants and carers, and hopefully we inspire them to have a go at fishing independently at some time in the future. But we also love it when people just keep coming back to our events. Before anyone can become a Fishability volunteer, they have to satisfy the state government requirements for being granted a Working with Children's card. We also encourage you to come down for a few sessions first and to ask any questions you may have and see if you like it. When coming down to check out these sessions, you'll be required to wear a high-vis vest, the Fishability equivalent of L plates. Once you've become a volunteer, we give you a uniform. Fishability uniforms identify us as a team and distinguish us from anyone else using the jetty that day. No one is given a uniform until they have met our induction requirements, including having a WWC card. Our job is to help people fish. We do this by getting to events early to set up the fishing gear, chairs and bait. Safety gear so everything is ready when the participants arrive. We then greet participants and settle them in and provide any fishing assistance that is necessary for a particular person. Importantly, we ask the carers accompany participants to our activities to attend to their personal requirements, including food, drink, toilet needs, so we can focus on fishing requirements of the group. The safety of our participants, carers and volunteers is our number one concern. Participant and carers can be confident that every fishing volunteer has a WWC card. Our Fishability volunteers also receive regular first aid training. We supply self-inflating life jackets to those who need them and to all students participating in an activity. We have water flotation devices at every activity. Coordinators complete a safety checklist at every Fishability activity, which now also includes COVID-19 precautions such as social distancing and sanitising of equipment before and after use. We have a full public liability and other insurances to cover volunteers, participants, carers and equipment. Well, that's what we do and how we do it. Thanks for becoming a Fishability volunteer. You are making a huge difference to the lives of many in the West Australian community.
Okay, so that short video has given you a bit of information about Fishability, a bit of an idea about structure and what's important, which is basically helping people to have a great experience every time. Information about the Working with Children check, the uniforms, your role as a volunteer, some of the equipment that's available and the importance of safety. And some of those things we'll talk a little bit more about, but anything else you need to know, you can always ask your coordinator or one of the Fishability staff. Now let's have a little bit more of a look at the disability side of things. So for the rest of this webinar, our focus is going to be around disability awareness. Now, there's 4 different areas that we're going to look at, and these areas came from consultation with the fishers and their supporters, as well as the volunteers and the Fishability staff. And the 4 key areas we're going to look at are going to include understanding a little bit about people with disability in our community, the importance of respecting people's ability and not focusing on their disability, some tips around good communication with people with disability, and some tips around supporting people with a disability to have a great experience. In the next video, we're just going to have a little bit of a reminder on the joy of fishing.
Have you got any fishing experiences? I noticed that your chair looks like it goes off-road a bit. Have you got any good tales you'd like to tell us about?
Oh yeah, just getting out and being able to fish is a big part. And the first time when you do catch that fish, because I hadn't always had a disability, so being able to get back and being able to fish again is a great experience and a bit of a rush and a thrill. So it's really enjoyable to be able to get out there and do that. And when you've got the people there to help you and support you to do that, it makes life so much more easier as well.
What sort of people do you like to fish with? Do you like to be quiet or do you like to have a chat?
I like to actually have a chat and get to know the people and that I'm fishing with and stuff, and having a bit of a joke and a laugh always. That's what fishing's all about, and having a bit of fun, having a bit of a joke and a laugh, and just enjoying the atmosphere.
Absolutely.
That's for me, I guess. Not everybody's as loud and as comfortable as I am with that. So,
And if you were to catch a really big fish, how would you like to celebrate that?
I'll be very happy, jumping around, excitement.
In this section, we're looking at people with disability in our community. Fishability welcomes people with all kinds of impairments as a result of disability or ageing. And the fishers come from aged care, special education, as well as from the community. There's approximately 3,000 attendances at Fishability events every year. We've included in your slide deck a definition of disability from the WA Disability Services Act. It defines disability as a disability which is caused by intellectual, psychiatric, cognitive, neurological, sensory, or physical impairment, or a combination of those impairments. Is permanent or likely to be permanent, maybe chronic or episodic, and which results in substantially reduced capacity for communication, social interaction, learning or mobility, and a need for continuing support services. The social model of disability is not mentioned here, but in that model, the impact of disability, it can be significantly reduced by thoughtful planning of the environment and information that's available, and inclusive attitudes. Some facts about disability in our community. 1 in 5 people in Australia reported in the most recent Australian Bureau of Statistics census that they had a disability. So that's about 4.5 million people. That's a lot of people. And when you add to that number the people who care for a family member with disability, it's about 1/3 of people in our community have a close connection to someone with a disability. Now, everyone's different, so you can't make assumptions. There are different degrees of disability. There are different preferences in terms of supports. Some people have more than one type of disability. Some disabilities aren't visible, so you can't see them. Disability increases, or the likelihood of having a disability increases as we get older. So as our hearing or vision or mobility deteriorates, therefore there's an increased chance that we can also acquire a disability if we don't already have one. So the bottom line is, don't judge a person by what they look like, because they may have a disability you can't see. And also just remember that disability is just one element that makes us an individual. So there are so many other things that make a person who they are, such as their background, their experiences, their culture, many, many things. Disability is just one of those things. So get to know people and treat them as individuals. Just briefly, we're going to go through the main types of disability. Physical disability is the most common type of disability that was reported in that ABS survey. And it typically relates to disabilities that impact people's mobility, such as, and you might think of wheelchair users immediately, but it could also include people who have other conditions that are less obvious, such as chronic fatigue or multiple sclerosis. The next area is psychosocial disabilities, which previously have been known as mental health or psychiatric disabilities, and most commonly include anxiety, depression, but other conditions as well, such as schizophrenia or bipolar disorder, and so on. Neurological impairments, where somebody has an acquired brain injury, perhaps through an accident or a stroke, and they can affect people's thought processes and memory, for example. Intellectual disabilities are another group where people have difficulty with learning and communicating and understanding complex information or problem solving. And so that might be somebody with Down syndrome or somebody with a developmental delay. Sensory impairments is another group, including people with vision and hearing loss. And then we have people on the autism spectrum, which is like all of these groups that we've spoken about, huge variation. No two people are the same. Autism typically includes two main areas, some difficult challenges with social communication and repetitive patterns of behaviour. Some people with autism, or many people with autism, experience sensory either overstimulation or understimulation. And as language changes, some people actually prefer to be described as neurodivergent rather than having autism. Fishability has people with all these types of disabilities. Just remember, as I've said before, that everyone is different. Don't make it an assumption based upon the type of disability that the person has. Treat everyone as an individual. In this section, we want to get the point across that it's important to respect people's abilities and not be focusing on what they can't do. So just a few tips. So the first tip is ask the person about their previous experiences with fishing. It's quite possible that they've done a lot of fishing before, perhaps before they acquired their disability, or perhaps for many years previously. So have a bit of a chat to them, get to know them, see what they know about fishing. Ask what, if any, assistance you can provide. That's a really important thing to do. So don't assume you know what assistance a person needs. Ask them. It may be that they can, put the bait on, but they can't cast, or they can't put the bait on and they need a bit of help with that. So ask them what it is that they would like your help with, and support people to do things independently if they want to. It might vary from week to week, but if people are able to do things, they really want to be able to use those skills and do as much for themselves as possible. If you're not sure, perhaps you're having difficulty communicating with the person, or you have some concerns, then there's always going to be support workers or carers or family members who are also supporting the person, who might be able to provide you with a bit more information about their abilities if the person themselves isn't. And also if you can ask them if there are any concerns or any risks that you need to be aware of. But many people that you come across will be able to share that with you themselves, but you've got that as a backup if you need. Got a little video just to reinforce some of these points.
Jason, good communication is really important just amongst people in general. Can you think of any occasions where someone might have addressed you not very respectfully?
Yeah, there has been a few times when I'll be talking to people and they'll talk to my carer or my support person who's with me, and they won't talk directly to me. So they'll ask them the questions and trying to they'll be asking them questions to find out answers from me. And when they can just approach me directly, I'm fully capable of answering any questions or talking about myself. So the best person to ask is me directly.
Yep.
Just because I'm in the wheelchair doesn't mean that I have an intellectual disability, and people do make assumptions that I'm either deaf or I don't understand just because I'm in a wheelchair, where I can fully comprehend anything and understand most things, so I can answer for myself. How would you like people to get to know you? So, e.g., what questions would you like to be asked or feel comfortable being asked? So, what questions would you like people to say, maybe to ask you to get to know you better? How would
Say hello, introduce yourself, talk to each other, to get to know each other.
If I wanted to know more about your disability and the way to help you, how would you like me to ask those questions?
There's no harm asking me.
Yep.
I have had problems with understanding people.
How would you like a volunteer to ask you about your disability? Would you like them just to ask you, or would you prefer just to tell them in your own time? Do you think that they need to know much about your disability when they come down?
Probably not. They treat you with all as an equal kind of thing.
Yep, excellent.
Okay, so in this section, we want to look at some good communication tips for communicating with people with disability. Many of these things are things that you're going to be using with anyone that you communicate with. So to start with, we'll just focus on some general tips. Firstly, communicate directly with the person, not with their support worker or interpreter. So first, try and have that conversation directly, and then if you're struggling, talk to the support worker or interpreter if they have one. Use appropriate eye contact. Even if the person has a vision impairment, they're still going to benefit from having that eye contact and hearing your voice coming directly towards them. Not everyone's comfortable with eye contact, so you need to judge that accordingly. Use plain English and respectful language. So by plain English, we mean just clear and concise language, straightforward. If you're going to use acronyms and jargon like any industry has, and of course fishing's got a few of them as well, like demersal and trolling, not everybody will know what they are, so you might need to explain those. And in terms of respectful language, it's about putting the persons first, not referring to them in terms of their disability, but referring to them as an individual, and not using patronising language like special or differently abled, using factual language, and not some of the disrespectful language like spastic or retard. Those sorts of words are not appreciated and considered old-fashioned and out of date. So use factual language and respectful language. Be mindful of any cultural or language issues as well. So like you would with anybody, not everybody is going to have English as their first language. And actively listen to people, with your whole body, your eyes, you're letting people know through your attention that you're genuinely listening and respecting them. Some more general tips. Don't pretend you understand if the person is difficult to understand. Just ask them again. People who have a speech impairment are used to the fact that they might have to repeat things. And by you asking, it shows that you're genuinely wanting to hear what it is they have to say, so don't feel embarrassed. Allow enough time for people to process and respond. Some people take longer to process what you've asked and to be able to formulate their response, so give them a little bit of time. Be flexible. Ask the person what works best for them, especially people who might use communication aids or books with pictures. For example, find out what's going to work best for communicating with that person. and encourage interactions between the participants and volunteers. We want everybody to have a great experience when they come along to Fishability. So you engaging with the person, encouraging them to engage with the others around them is going to be make it fun for everybody. Again, let's have a look at a video that reinforces some of those messages.
Trevor, if someone doesn't understand you, would you prefer that they say the question or make the comment the same way, or would you like them to put it in a different way?
Put it in a different way where I could understand what they're saying.
So when you don't understand something,
I'll just ask them, excuse me, I still don't understand. Can you repeat that again for me?
Jason, how do you feel if somebody touches your arm or your leg, like if they're trying to point out something or get your attention?
I don't mind, but I guess, if I know the person, that's fine if they do touch me. I guess if you didn't know me, then maybe an appropriate place would just be to tap me on the shoulder, so just to get my attention or something. But otherwise, just ask, and then, is it appropriate just to, give you a touch on the knee or a touch on the elbow just to get your attention, and then, but apart from that, I don't think there's really much need to really touch me or my chair until, not at all really, I suppose. They can just use their voice to communicate to me.
Yeah, they can just say, hey, Jason.
Yeah.
That works just as well.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, not everybody likes to be touched, and, it could be seen as not being very nice, so it's probably best just not to touch people. When you are fishing, do you like to be talking with the volunteers that are helping you, or with the other participants, or do you just like to be left alone?
I like to be with the volunteers and the other participants. We could all get to know each other, kind of thing.
Okay, so you like to get to know all the other participants?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Do you like obviously gaining the experience of fishing?
Yeah, because I haven't fished. It was a long time ago when I fished with my brothers, and that was like decades ago, kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's nice to get back into it, kind of thing.
So if I'm seeing that like Katrina may be struggling with something and she can't get a message across, I'd like to let the volunteer know that she'll need a bit of assistance from them, as in like someone will say just pull the line or do something like that. She can't do things like just pull the line. Yeah. So I'll rearrange it. I said things take a little bit longer and a little slower to learn things, and we can't do things quickly, and in an instance, it takes a long time to learn something simple.
So now a couple of tips for people with particular types of impairment. So firstly, some tips for people who might have a cognitive impairment. So this might be somebody perhaps who has an intellectual disability or an acquired brain injury, or perhaps has dementia. So if somebody is continuously repeating the same thing over and over, asking the same question or telling you the same story, just be patient. Some people don't realise that they're repeating the same thing. They're not doing it to annoy you. They just aren't able to control it or even remember that they've said that thing. So just be patient and continue on with the conversation. Keep it simple. So try to keep your instructions and your communication simple, with not too long sentences or too big chunks of information. Just provide information in nice bite-sized chunks. If you're showing somebody something new, perhaps how to put the bait on or how to pull the fish in, demonstrate first, then provide them an opportunity to try, and then while they're trying, give them a little feedback while they're going. So like, oh, that's great. Yep, push it a bit harder or pull it in a bit faster, whatever the feedback might be. Some tips for people with sensory impairment. So this might be somebody who's blind or perhaps hearing impaired. First up, get the person's attention. They might not know that you're communicating with them. So perhaps a tap on the shoulder just to let them know, or calling out their name so that they know that you're talking to them. Be sure that your face can actually be seen clearly. We all lip read to some extent, so having a good sort of image of your face reinforces your messages as well. And if somebody's deaf or uses sign language, maybe try and learn some of the signs that they use. Even some of the more basic Auslan signs, such as thank you, or, you know, a bit of a wave to say hello, are great, and you'll be able to pick them up very quickly. And finally, a couple of tips for people on the autism spectrum. So, as I said before, some people might have difficulty with communication and with that social interaction and understanding some of the things that are happening around them. So one thing is getting to know the person and understanding that they might have individual sensitivities around noises or around light, or around the texture of things, for example. So getting to know them and what's going to trigger them is going to help you sort of, you know, find them a good spot to sit, or avoid any sort of excessive noise or stimulation that's going to annoy or upset them. Perhaps often people will bring their own aids and sort of tools that they might have in place to help them manage the different environments. So they might perhaps bring noise cancelling headphones if noise can be overstimulating for them, or they might have glasses or hats or things that they use for comfort. So just about getting to know them and finding out what's going to work best for them. Building trust and consistency is great. You know, the person might not feel comfortable for quite a long time to actually fully engage in the fishing activities. It might take just a few visits in the car for them to actually feel comfortable enough to get out of the car and come down to the jetty. So it's just about being patient and supportive while they gradually build up that trust. And then finally, that some people with autism do struggle to understand the emotional feelings of other people, and they might miss some of those cues that somebody's upset or somebody's angry or somebody is excited, and they might misunderstand what's happening. So sometimes they just need some help to understand, oh, look, that's okay. So-and-so is excited. That's why he's shouting. And that just might help them to understand what's going on. So in this section, we want to talk about your job as a volunteer, which is basically supporting people with disability to have a great experience. You're not support workers, so you're assisting people to fish, but you're not there to provide their care. That's the job of carers, support workers, or families. If somebody does need that sort of, you know, one-on-one support, personal assistance, perhaps with going to the toilet, or keeping an eye to keep on them to keep them safe, then that's not going to be your role, and that support person or family member will be staying close by so that they're there if you need them, or if the person needs some additional support. So your role is helping them to fish and have a good time. So a couple of tips. Ask before you help, don't just jump in. So you don't assume you know what sort of help the person wants. They might actually be quite skillful. They might not need the help that you think they need. So it's better to ask first rather than make an assumption. If you think that the person might need a physical prompt or a bit of a guide and you need to touch them, just check it's okay first. So that they don't get a surprise and that they're comfortable with what it is you're going to do. For example, you might need to guide their arm to be able to do the casting. So just make sure they're comfortable with that. And then as you go along, just check in from time to time if they need any help, if they're happy with what you're supporting them with, if they want to change it up at all. There might be little challenges along the way where the person can't do something or they can't hold something but they'd really like to. Perhaps you work on solutions together. Two heads are better than one, and you might come up with a great solution that's going to assist them to independently do some of the things as part of the experience. And when things work, or when they catch a fish, or do something for the first time, you want to acknowledge that and celebrate success. Again, we've got a little video which is going to reinforce some of those messages.
Jason, how do you let people know when you need assistance?
I'll just ask them when I need assistance. I don't like people assuming that they can, that I do need it. Sometimes I don't. It might look like I do, but I actually don't. So even if they were just to ask, do you need assistance? That's okay. Instead of just taking control of what they think that I might need help with. I'd rather for them just to wait until I did ask for the help that I need.
If the person helping you is doing it in a way that isn't quite right, or you want it done somehow a different way, can you tell them that? Or do you just put up with it even though it might be annoying you?
No.
You just go along with the flow.
Yeah.
You go along with the flow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So someone needs to be a little bit observant and
Yes.
just see how you're reacting.
Although you can ask for
Chat.
help.
Help.
Yeah, she'll say help
Yes.
if you need some help.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you'll say help if you need help.
Yeah.
So people need to just listen in and just be a bit observant.
Yes.
Yeah. What kind of feedback do you like if someone's got some ideas on maybe a different type of reel to use or a different way of fishing?
Well, I love getting all new ideas and stuff. Everything's different. Sometimes it'll make it easier, and I might get more fish, or sometimes it might not be the best idea. But just to give it a try is always better, I feel. And why not try new things and experience new things?
And you can decide if you'd like to do it then or try it another time.
Yeah,
It's up to you.
that's right. Yeah, if I'm comfortable with changing it up on the day, then yeah, it's fine. But sometimes I don't feel like changing things up, and I like to keep it the way I've been doing it all the time. So.
Yep. Trevor, if you're doing something this week and it's working really well, and then next week you forget how to cast out the line, or you forget the right way of putting some bait on the hook, what would you like the volunteers to do?
Well, you can ask them to give you a hand to show you again how to hook up, or with your line getting tangled to untangle it.
If they are you happy for them to ask you, or would you rather
I'll
ask
rather
them?
ask them that, and then they will come to you and then to give you a hand what you're going to ask them.
Okay. Jason, if you got a new rod, how would you adapt it to your particular needs?
Well, for me personally, I can't really move a lot, so I've got to have an electric wheel fitted. So if it's electric and it's got a button fitted to it, then I'll be able to press the button to reel in. Obviously, I would need some assistance with casting and baiting up and putting hooks and stuff like that on the line. So, that's where I need all my help that way. What kind of assistance would you need from the volunteers down here today, do you think?
To help with the casting and maybe help me put the bait on the hook kind of thing.
Yep.
Not very good at the casting at all.
Okay, so just need a bit more practice to
Yeah.
learn how to do it.
Yeah.
Yep, okay. And would you ask for that assistance, or would you just expect them to do that for you?
No, I'd probably ask them kind of thing because I wouldn't know what I was thinking at all.
When they do give you assistance, do you like to for them to keep helping you the whole time, or would you like them just to show you once and then you figure it out the rest?
No, I prefer if they kept helping me because I got on really well with them kind of thing, and they were really good.
Okay, so the more assistance you get, the better it is for you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, we've talked about quite a lot of different things already, so we thought we'd look at a couple of scenarios to get you thinking about maybe what you might do in these situations. So have a think about these 5 different scenarios. We'll go through each of them and suggest a couple of things that you might think about if that happens. So first up, we've got the fisher is speaking quietly and looking down all the time, and you can't hear them, so it's hard to have a chat. So bottom line is that it takes time to build relationships with people, and some people don't like eye contact, so don't judge them, just be patient. Perhaps ask them to repeat what they've said if you can't hear them, or maybe suggest moving to a quieter spot so you can hear them. Second scenario, the fisher walks off and away from the fishing area. Well, perhaps you could walk off with them and see what they'd like to do. It might just be that they're wanting to sit quietly somewhere or have a look at the river, look at a different part of the river. But of course, if the person does need one-to-one supervision, then the support worker or their family should be nearby and they should be taking over and going with that person so you can continue to support the other fishers. But if that person's okay on their own, just make sure that they're fine and just keep a check on them and make sure that they still feel included. In the third scenario, we've kind of talked about that a little bit before. So if you've got a fisher that keeps repeating the same things, perhaps asking the same question or just repeating the same story, just remember that some people won't know that they're doing that. It's part of their disability. So just be patient, just keep acknowledging or responding to their question. Don't argue with people that you've already talked about this. That's not going to help. Sometimes distraction can help. So perhaps you could say, hey, let's have a look what John's doing, or let's look at this tackle box or whatever. So it might be something that you can do to distract them, and try not to get frustrated. If you do get frustrated, just remember you've got other volunteers and your coordinator that can assist if you need a break. The fourth scenario is perhaps if you've got a fisher that's upset about something. They might be upset about something that someone's done or something in the environment is upsetting them. So maybe it's a typical experience for them. So it could be that you've got to know them and you know that they don't like loud noises, or they don't like a particular person. Perhaps that particular person is something about them, the colour or their sound, or something about them that upsets them. So knowing that, you can perhaps support them, move them away, encourage them to put on their headphones or whatever it is that makes them feel safer. But if it isn't something that you've seen the person do before, then perhaps you need to check that they are okay and maybe talk to their support person, or maybe one of the other Fishability volunteers or coordinators if you're not sure how best to support them. And then finally, if you might have a fisher perhaps that keeps touching another fisher or touching their gear. So you just might reinforce in that situation that's the other person's equipment, or just give that person a little bit of space. Perhaps give the person some different things to explore, like distract them with their own things to explore, or maybe take a break, get the person perhaps up for a walk up and down the jetty, or move to a different area. So there's not necessarily going to be a perfect answer for every situation that you come across, but hopefully we've given you a few tips that you can work it out for yourself. And now one final video just to give you some further feedback from fishers and their support staff.
Well,
mainly for volunteers to be really patient, really patient, and to get here today can be really difficult too for some people as well. It's not easy just to come fishing, so there's a whole process during the day to get here as well. So it can be exhausting and draining, and it also has an ability on someone's behaviour. So it's not as easy what it looks is to just come and fish in the water. That's what I was trying to get across.
Yeah, there's a lot of work behind the actually deciding to get here, and then the things you need to do when you get here, and things you need to be aware of.
It's not only just the weather. There's a whole big range of things. And when we do get here, we can. It's just really wonderful, isn't it? It's just a good experience. To get out and do something different as well with great people. And all the volunteers I have come across have been absolutely marvellous. You just got to have a lot of patience. And learning, and they're all learning too as well. And we're learning fishing too.
So finally, here's a couple of extra places you can go for some further information. If you're interested in Auslan, there's a great video on Auslan here and on this slide. There's also some inclusive volunteering fact sheets on the Equal website. That might be helpful with a bit more information around communication and supporting people who as a volunteer. And then finally, remember, you've got all of your teammates around you. You have other Fishability volunteers, you have the Fishability staff and coordinators. So remember, they're there and more than happy to help you if you want some further information. Thank you. Thank you to you for being a Fishability volunteer. And thanks to everyone who helped put this training together, which includes NDIS, who provided the funding, Equal Disability Consultants, who put together the training, Scout Creative, who put together the videos, and the fishers and their support staff, and the Fishability volunteers and staff who have helped put together the videos. Thank you to everyone, and enjoy your Fishability experience.